can't fully understand the Constitution or what it does, what its purpose is, unless you also understand the Declaration of Independence and what led to it. In some respects, I think it's fair to say that the Declaration of Independence is itself the picture. The Constitution is the frame that holds the picture together. It's what is there to protect the picture. But the picture itself is the Declaration. And yet, we don't talk about it as much as we used to. Along with the loss of civics instruction elsewhere in our education system, I think we have neglected the Declaration of Independence. So I wrote this book with moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas in mind, people who might want to get this for their kids and grandkids, so they could learn the same things that they were taught as they were raised.
I quite like this quote in your preface, quote, "Scores of students are busily engaged in the study of constitutional law, but who studies declaration law?" And that's quite true. It's does not really appear in law school curricula, and that does seem like a bit of a shortcoming. Talk a bit more about that, and where do you think that ought to go in a law student's or a high school student's education?
First of all, I thought of you when I wrote this. I thought if anyone does specialize in that, it'd probably be Professor Rosencrantz. But yeah, I don't think we think of it as a legally operative document. In a sense, you can't invoke it in the same way you could invoke a statute or in the same way you would invoke a provision of the Constitution. It is nonetheless there as an animating principle or set of principles behind how we view government in general. It should superimpose itself on everything we see in law. One of the reasons I say that is because Jefferson acknowledges a relationship between human beings and government that was itself, at the time, somewhat revolutionary. That government is there to serve us, not the other way around, and that governments are themselves mortal institutions. They're instituted among men for the consent of the governed. This is in stark contrast to the way government was viewed within Great Britain at the time. The King of England believed in the divine right of kings. God and my right was the slogan in English. And the way they conceptualized government was that the king was born and ordained by Almighty God to rule and reign within the British Empire. So this document, the Declaration of Independence, represented a significant shift in the way we viewed governments, and a positive one, I believe.
It was also quite a brave document for its framers to sign. Talk a bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, when they said they were pledging their lives in addition to their sacred honor, they were also literally their lives. They meant it. It was an act of treason to do this at the time. They knew that if the revolution failed, which let's face it, at the time, it was certainly not destined to succeed. It was not a foregone conclusion that they were going to win that Revolutionary War. After all, they were challenging, they were taking head on the world's greatest superpower.
Safe to say it was a long shot.
A long shot, to be sure. And but they did it anyway. It's one of the things that so inspires me about the story of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the reasons I wrote Our Lost Declaration, because when we see some of the people behind it, we realize that many of them didn't exactly have a lot to gain by this. They had a lot to lose. They didn't necessarily have a lot to gain personally by doing this. They were doing it because they believed in the dignity of the human soul. That's what the Declaration is all about.
That's very compelling. And I have to tell you, I found the writing very compelling. It really is a page-turner, which one doesn't say